Hi, we're the Qualle Bunch, and we just trying to figure out our way around here. But I guess this whole thing started in 1969. Deborah and I started worshiping with this community when we were at Fresno State, and since then, more or less continuously, became members in mid-70s and have worshiped here for the last, whatever it's been, 40 years or so.
I was born into this church and grew up in this church. I spent a lot of time in this room. Before there was a CE2 building over on the other side, I spent a lot of time in my kind of teenage and high school years up on the roof here at UPC, and hanging out in the sanctuary and painting buildings and going on mission trips.
When God's people were traveling through the desert, many people, God's people, came with them.
They tell it in their own way, and they maybe make it a little bit simpler, a little bit more complex, but wherever they are, they're able to come to it where they are. And that it's something that they can learn, and then they feel like they learn it a little bit better, and they feel like they understand it a little bit more, and then they really start diving into it. And so it's just each time they come to it, and each time it kind of opens up, they're like, I feel that I know it well enough to be able to question it, to be able to ask questions, to be able to really explore it more. And so it just makes sense for a lot of kids to be able to say, like, this is something that's comfortable for me.
He told Moses to write. Moses had 2 pieces of wood with him, and he said to write these commandments.
Watching it as an adult, I've lived in that story's lived in I've lived in it in my head for so long that I can tell you about it. But the tactile way of watching her work with it and move people through the sand and say, well, the sand was dangerous, and they moved through it, and Moses led them and went up on the mountain and talked with God, and it just has a very visceral type of experience that I think in some ways reflects on this church as being a sort of a visceral type of way of experiencing God.
1. Don't serve other gods. 2. Make no idols to worship.
I've been sitting here and thinking about growing up in this church. I think it is also a remarkable thing. It's been almost a year since I was elected as an elder in this church. And I came up from being born into this church. And this church has very much allowed me to grow. I've been able to really experience the full gamut of responsibility in a church, from crying in a pew to sitting in session. I think that's kind of a cool thing too.
At the point that we were looking to where do we really want to root and what do we want to call our community, I was like, there's really no question we already have a community here, because their deep-rooted connections here had already translated to us. And so it just really was this multi-generational transmission of what it means to be the body of Christ and what it means to care for each other.
9. Don't lie. 10. Don't even want what others have.
So what I'm trying to say is that the stories are all built around experiences of doing things together in a community, and feeling like there's a place where you belong and a place where you want to contribute and a place where we can share our faith together.